to ignite a firestorm that would end with Samuel L. Jackson storming off her set, leaving audiences stunned and the hosts scrambling to comprehend what had just happened. The studio lights were bright that afternoon as Samuel L. Jackson settled into the guest chair across from Kelly Clarkson. The audience applauded warmly, expecting the kind of lighthearted banter that usually fills daytime television. Jackson smiled, relaxed in his seat, ready to talk about his latest project. Everything seemed perfectly normal. Kelly leaned forward with that signature smile plastered across her face. "So Samuel, let me ask you something. You've been in what, like 100 movies now?" Jackson chuckled, nodding. "Something like that. I've been fortunate to work on some incredible projects over the years." Right, Kelly said, waving her hand dismissively. "But here's what I'm curious about. Do you ever feel like you're just playing the same character over and over again? Like angry guy with a gun?" The audience went quiet. Jackson's smile faltered slightly, but he maintained his composure. "Well, I wouldn't say that. Each role brings something different. The characters I play have depth, backstory, motivation." Kelly cut him off. "Sure, but come on. You're basically Hollywood's go-to guy when they need someone to yell and look tough, right? I mean, how much range does that really take?" Jackson shifted in his seat. "I think if you actually watch the films, you'd see there's a lot more nuance than that. I've played everything from a Jedi Master to a hitman to real-life historical figures." "A Jedi Master who was basically just you in a robe." Kelly shot back, laughing. "I watched those movies. You're still just Samuel L. Jackson being Samuel L. Jackson." The audience members exchanged uncomfortable glances. This wasn't the playful teasing they were used to seeing on daytime television. This felt personal. Jackson leaned back, his jaw tightening. "I'm not sure what you're getting at here, Kelly." "I'm just saying," she continued, her voice dripping with condescension. "Some actors really transform for their roles. They disappear into characters. But you're always just yourself. Isn't that kind of lazy?" "Lazy?" Jackson's voice dropped lower, that famous intensity creeping into his tone. "You think what I do is lazy?" Kelly shrugged, seemingly oblivious to the rising tension. "I'm just asking the question everyone's thinking. Like Daniel Day-Lewis, now that's acting. He becomes someone completely different. You just show up and say the lines with attitude." Jackson took a deep breath, visibly trying to control his frustration. "Kelly, I've been doing this for over 40 years. I've worked with some of the greatest directors in cinema history. Quentin Tarantino, Spike Lee, Steven Spielberg. These aren't people who hire lazy actors." "Oh, don't get defensive," Kelly said with a laugh that felt more mocking than genuine. "I'm sure they like working with you because you're easy. You know, low maintenance. Just point you at the camera and let you do your thing." "Easy?" Jackson's voice rose slightly. "You think what I do is easy?" The audience was dead silent now. Even Kelly's usual supporters seemed uncomfortable with where this was heading. "I mean, compared to real acting, yeah," Kelly pressed on. "It's not like you're learning new accents, or gaining weight for roles, or any of that method stuff. You just be Samuel L. Jackson. How hard is that?" Jackson stood up slightly in his chair. "Let me tell you something about what I do. Every character I play, I bring years of training, preparation, emotional depth. Just because I don't put on a fake nose or gain 50 pounds doesn't mean I'm not acting." Kelly rolled her eyes. "Okay, but be honest. How many of your movies are actually good? Like, really good? Most of them are just action fluff, right?" "Action fluff?" Jackson's voice was sharp now. "Pulp Fiction was action fluff? The Hateful Eight? Do the Right Thing?" "Those were Tarantino and Spike Lee movies," Kelly interrupted. "They would have been good with anybody. You just happened to be there." Jackson stared at her in disbelief. "Did you really just say that?" "I'm just being real," Kelly said, leaning back with an air of superiority. "Somebody needs to ask you these questions. Everyone else just kisses up to you because you're famous." "Kisses up to me?" Jackson's hands gripped the armrests of his chair. Or maybe they respect the work I've put in over decades in this industry. Kelly waved her hand again. Respect, sure, but let's not pretend you're Denzel Washington or anything. The audience gasped audibly. Several people whispered to each other, clearly shocked by the comparison. Jackson's eyes widened. What does that mean? It means Denzel is a real actor, Kelly said, matter-of-factly. He's got Oscars. He's got range. He's got presence. You're just, the guy who yells. The guy who yells, Jackson repeated slowly, his voice dangerously calm. That's what you think I am? I'm not trying to be mean, Kelly said, though her tone suggested otherwise. I'm just saying there are levels to this stuff, and you're maybe not at the top level. Jackson stood up from his chair. The sudden movement made Kelly flinch slightly. You know what, Kelly? I've done hundreds of interviews. I've sat across from everyone, from Oprah to Jimmy Fallon to serious journalists. And never, not once, has anyone been as disrespectful as you're being right now. Kelly laughed nervously. Oh, come on. Don't be so sensitive. I'm just having a conversation. A conversation? Jackson's voice boomed through the studio. You've spent the last 5 minutes telling me I'm a lazy actor with no range who just happens to be in good movies by accident. That's not a conversation. That's an attack. I think you're overreacting, Kelly said, her smile fading slightly. This is what talk shows are. We ask challenging questions. Challenging questions are fine, Jackson fired back. But you're not asking questions. You're making insulting statements disguised as questions. There's a difference. Kelly shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Well, I'm sorry if you can't handle a little criticism. Criticism? Jackson's voice grew louder. You just compared me unfavorably to Denzel Washington, implied I have no talent, called my work lazy, and suggested any director could replace me, and their movie would be just as good. That's not criticism, that's disrespect. The audience began murmuring among themselves. Some people nodded in agreement with Jackson. Others looked uncomfortable, unsure how to react. Kelly tried to regain control. Look, Samuel, I think you're taking this way too personally. Personally? Jackson pointed at her. You made it personal the moment you decided to trash my entire career on national television. I wasn't trashing anything, Kelly protested. I was just giving my opinion. Your opinion, Jackson said, his voice dripping with frustration, is uninformed and insulting. You clearly haven't watched most of my work, and you're making judgments based on whatever superficial impression you have. Kelly's face reddened. I've seen your movies. Which ones? Jackson challenged. Name 5 of my movies that aren't Marvel films or Star Wars. Kelly stammered. Well, there's, Pulp Fiction, obviously. That's one. And, Snakes on a Plane. Jackson shook his head. So you've seen the meme movie. What else? Kelly struggled. Look, I don't need to prove anything to you. Exactly my point, Jackson said. You're sitting here criticizing my body of work when you haven't even done the basic homework. You've seen maybe 3 of my films, and you're making sweeping statements about my entire career. I know enough to have an opinion, Kelly said defensively. An opinion based on ignorance is just prejudice, Jackson shot back. Kelly's eyes flashed with anger. Okay, now you're calling me prejudiced? That's a serious accusation. I'm saying you're judging something you don't understand, Jackson clarified. Whether that's prejudice or just laziness, I'll let you decide. Laziness? Kelly stood up now too. You're calling me lazy? That's rich coming from someone who phones in every performance. The audience gasped again. This was escalating fast. Jackson's voice became eerily calm. There it is again. You can't help yourself, can you? Every time you open your mouth, another insult. It's not an insult if it's true, Kelly snapped. And who made you the arbiter of truth? Jackson asked. What are your credentials exactly? You won a singing competition 20 years ago. That makes you qualified to judge acting? Kelly's face turned bright red. I've had a successful career in entertainment for 2 decades. Singing pop songs and hosting a talk show, Jackson said. Both of which are fine professions, but neither gives you the expertise to critique what I do. I'm allowed to have opinions, Kelly insisted. You are, Jackson agreed. But when you invite someone onto your show, there's an expectation of basic respect and courtesy. You've shown me neither. Kelly crossed her arms. Maybe if you weren't so arrogant, people would respect you more? Arrogant? Jackson laughed bitterly. I came on this show to have a conversation about my work. You're the one who decided to turn it into a platform to tear me down, and you're calling me arrogant? You walk around like you're some kind of icon, Kelly said. I've earned my place in this industry, Jackson replied. I've worked hard for 40 years. I've studied my